Everyone put on their show faces. Willis Clan sister Jessica describes how her father began molesting her when she was 3 and explains what finally drove her to escape the family after 20 years of beatings and abuse. The oldest of the 12 Willis Clan siblings has described for the first time how their father Toby molested her and beat her and how she escaped him 4 months before his arrest. In a lengthy blog post that she published on Friday, Jessica Willis Fisher, now 26, described how the abuse began when she was just 3 years old and how it persisted throughout her adult life. She told why she chose to leave her 11 siblings and explained that while she is no longer part of their country music group, she will always be part of the family. The family shot to fame on America's Got Talent and landed their own TLC reality. They were considered the country's answer to the Von Trapp family from The Sound of Music until August 2016 when Toby was arrested. In April 2016, 4 months before 47-year-old Toby was arrested on the back of a tip from a friend of the family, Jessica fled their home in Tennessee. He had beaten her with a belt that day over a row she had with one of her brothers, she said. As far back as I can remember, I was sexually abused by my father. I figure I was around 3 years old in some of the earliest memories, Jessica said in her blog post on Friday. My story is complicated. It's deeply private, personal and way too long to share in full just as the story of anyone's life would be. However, after much recent deliberation and soul-searching, I have come to realize that I feel a responsibility to the truth itself and my conscience demands a public denouncement of the previous life I helped hide for so long, she said. Jessica has not rejoined the family since her father's arrest and has not participated in interviews with the rest of her siblings about it. The abuse predates the family's public profile, she said, and was facilitated by the fact that all 12 of the siblings were homeschooled and sheltered. Without going into detail about the sexual abuse, Jessica said it was graphic and that while she suspected it was happening to her sisters, they did not discuss it for years or at any great length. She became aware that it was inappropriate when she was 9, she said, when her mother cottoned on to what he was doing. An initial awareness of questionable behavior began when I was around 9 years old. Something, I'm still not sure what, caused my mother to become suspicious of my father's interactions. I didn't realize there was zero evidence of anything specific and all I did was nod uncertainly when a few general questions were asked by my mother. I heard my mother raise her voice to my father for the first time in my life and I thought the adults would figure it out. I didn't understand that my father simply denied any wrongdoing and became more secretive and dangerous from then on, she wrote. As she got older, she began suspecting that her father was abusing her sisters but none were able to pin down the monster in the shadows and unanimously condemn him. I feel like I truly knew that certain other members of my family were being sexually abused and I felt they knew this about me too. Conversations were had. Tears were cried and we questioned how to deal with the situation. But I now realize that since we all were different ages with completely different viewpoints, separate experiences and limited vocabularies, even when we tried to speak to each other, each person thought they were talking about something different, she explained. As she aged, the sexual abuse waned and by the time they had become famous, Jessica tried to put it behind her despite her having 7 younger sisters. It is not known how many of the girls were abused by Toby. However, as the family became more successful, her father became more tightly wound and strict. Bigger platforms and higher-octane schedules led to pressures that can stress even the healthiest of systems. Our family system was disturbingly sick. For a long time now I had felt like I was going through life with a massive bomb strapped to my chest that I knew would one day detonate. There were many rules in my family for communication, friendships and relationships but it universally came down to my father's favor and if that was lost, any person, family or group would be cut off by whatever means necessary, she said. In April 2015, while on tour, she arrived in her hotel room to find her sisters and mother gathered and distraught after one of them had been molested. I came into my hotel room that night to find my mother and some of my sisters sitting on the bed crying with that look on their face I had seen so many times before. The coldest, Blackest pit opened up in my stomach because no words needed to be said for me to know something had happened. How was I here again? Things were not over. They had never been over. Sexual abuse was still happening. And I knew it, she wrote. She confronted her father and threatened to leave but carried on living with them. Their tour continued, as did their show and Jessica's relationship with her then boyfriend Sean, who the family liked originally but who Toby had excommunicated, continued in secret. In autumn that year, her father discovered they were still in touch and threatened to kill him, she said. All manner of technology or communication was taken away from me and even secret letters were found out. It was imperative to keep me closed off from all help as I was now fighting to get out. My life amounted to a type of house arrest. I sank into the first depression of my life and lost close to 15 pounds, she said. Over the winter of 2015, the violence escalated until in January 2016, her father beat her on a tour bus. He blamed my disobedience and defied everyone, though my mother and siblings tried to interfere. A police car pulled up behind us, and when the officer entered, I hid in my bunk to hide the blood and the forming bruises. Everyone put on their show faces, she said. Another 3 months went by before she finally fled after being beaten by her father with a belt after she had an argument with her brother Jer. He said it was his God-given responsibility to punish me. It was in that moment I knew. The threats and violence stopped working. No matter how it happened, I would leave by tonight, she wrote. Immediately, Jessica packed her things. She retrieved an emergency